Hand in hand, how we contribute to make events come together.
No, let me rudely interrupt you and now announce the arrival of His Excellency the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia. He is now arriving, and he will be accompanied by, he will be here with the wife, Samira Bawumia, to pay their respect to the late President Jerry John Rawlings. So we're now seeing the arrival of His Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, Alhaji Dr. Bawumia. Kafui, it looks as if you look at the program for today, the President at 9 a.m., and then from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., this is what is going to happen. The President comes in, and just as the President had left, the Vice President had come. It looks as if this is demonstrating quality, demonstrating time.
Yeah, I mean, it's we shouldn't. You see, the sad thing is that we get surprised when things happen on time, which shouldn't be the case. I know circumstances where people are described as, oh, you're not Ghanaian just because you arrived somewhere on time. That should not be the case. It should be normal for things to happen on time. The President was expected to be here at 9, and he was here even before 9. Yeah, it's just a few minutes past 9 o'clock, and everything is going like clockwork. So we can plan. We know what is happening. President and First Lady to come. We now have the Vice President and the Second Lady. We are expecting to see former presidents and their spouses next. So we are just following schedule. And this should be the norm. We shouldn't get excited that things happen on time. Yes, in fact, in some countries like Japan, Germany, people have been known to resign for coming to, in Japan, a train arrived a couple of seconds late, and the CEO of the train company resigned because the train arrived a couple of seconds later.
A typical Ghanaian would say, "This man is not serious.
Yeah,
why do I leave my way because the train was late?
Was I the one piloting the train?
No,
that's the kind of question to ask. But you see, sticking to time it shows respect for another person. If you give the person 9 and you get there at 9, it shows respect. So that's the Vice President acknowledging the presence of the family.
We used putting our palm in your
he has raised is,
and now because of COVID, now everybody is folding his arms, and brother is afraid of brother.
I say the finger snap is now extinct. The Ghanaian finger.
Yes.
Where you
yes.
It's extinct.
It's gone.
I don't know the last time I shook anybody
and I don't think it's going to come.
We are now Japanese bowing. Yeah, Chinese, we're bowing. Yeah. So that's it. In and out. And it's a Vice President.
Spending any long time in the room, you quickly need to walk out, and because COVID is telling us that when you stay in an enclosed, air-conditioned room, you can transmit COVID in a faster. Now he's leaving, and immediately after he leaves, I know the next person that is going to come will follow him immediately. So Kafui, who is the next? The next person coming in?
Well, according to our schedule.
Yes.
Done?
Sure.
Yes. And I'm sure the convoy of the Vice President is leaving now. Your life from the AICC, day 3 of the final funeral rites of the late President Jerry John Rawlings. And you just saw live footage of the Vice President and his wife paying their last respect to the man we have come to cherish, a charismatic figure. So many descriptives have been given to him, enigmatic, loyal, the man who everybody has come to love. And we are all paying our last respects. Right. Our legends, Morris, indeed lives on. Yeah, he lives on. I mean, that's the tag when you get to the conference center. I mean, our legend lives on. And J.J. Rawlings will continue to live. He will transcend. I'm not sure we are going to forget in a hurry. Generations, generations. Our history cannot be complete without him. Our democratic, our economic, our whatever history cannot be complete without J.J. Rawlings. And so yesterday, in our pictures we are seeing former President J.A. Kufuor also coming to pay his last respect. And so throughout the day we are going to see these dignitaries come far past. And stay with us, we are going to bring you the footages live as and when they happen. So yesterday, already I think there is a Rawlings Foundation. Okay. So they are going to be doing some form of activities to institutionalize the memory of J.J. Rawlings, holding public lectures and doing some of the things that Rawlings would have done if he was still alive. To individuals. You saw him offer help to, I think there was this man who didn't have, he was disabled, but didn't have a wheelchair. Rawlings brought him to his house, gave him a wheelchair, gave him some money to support himself. I've also heard one man recount of how
majestically taking the strides, and I think in order to get everything done in good stead, I think he's going to use a wheelchair. Yes. So this is telling us that you can't cheat. Nature, I will grab it. Now look at him, the gentle giant that we used to call now is now in a wheelchair. That is life, and he's not going to pay his last respect. Facilities should be disability friendly. Because if it is not disability friendly, now a former president who cannot have the luxury of walking as he used to walk, now using a wheelchair, whether mechanized or manual, whatever, the fact is that he's using a wheelchair. If he's using a wheelchair and there is no access for this wheelchair, how can he come in and do this that the whole country decided to do? So it looks as if as a
another operation
procedures for the filing passed. Okay.
In all respects, and he's exiting the Accra International Conference Center. It's quite interesting to note that President Kufuor once worked under President Rawlings.
Yes. Well, he was appointed under Rawlings PNDC as a local government secretary.
Exactly.
Local government secretary. So it's come to pay respect to
the former boss, and a colleague president. Former president, yeah.
This is how.
And the man from whom he took over in 2001. Yeah. So.
And this is so instructive, and you can even see. But then what is missing here is that if president came with a wife, vice president came with a wife, but former president is supposed to have come with Teresa, but I think because of each or other disease, health conditions, so Madame Teresa is not with former president. And this is what we face in life. And when the situation comes, accept it, and we'll move. So then it means that the next to come to former President John Dramani Mahama. And he will be here with the wife Georgina Mahama, former First Lady. Former President John Ajekun Kufuor was president from 2001, January 7, 2001 to January 7, 2005, and then got a second term from January 7, 2006, and then ended January 1st, 2010. That was when Professor John Evans Atamils, the late Professor John Evans Fifi Atamils, took over as the President of the Republic of Ghana. So we're waiting for the arrival of former President John Dramani Mahama, who, according to the program, should be following President Kufuor, who just left the premises of the Offense Center, where former President Rawlings is being laid in state. Today is day 3 of the funeral service, and everything will be rounded off in the afternoon with traditional and customary rites scheduled to take place from 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. Today we will end slightly earlier than we did, God willing, yesterday, and then tomorrow we shall move to day 4, which is the final day. And what do we have, Lieutenant Tay, from 8 o'clock? What is happening?
You have the filing passed. This will be done by the family, the Chief of the Defense Staff, and the IGP, and heads of other security agencies, the former Chairman of the Council of State, the Chief of Staff, the Chief Justice, the Speaker of Parliament, former President John Ajekun Kufuor and spouse, if possible, former President John Dramani Mahama and spouse, the Vice President of the Republic and the Second Lady, visiting heads of state, the President of the Republic and the First Lady, and then the clergy before the service begins. That should be about 9:10 a.m.
That is when they get closer to seeing the casket of the former president the last time. Then we would now have to admit and accept that we have.
What do we have, Lieutenant Tay, from 8 o'clock? What is happening?
You have the filing passed. This will be done by the family, the Chief of the Defense Staff, and the IGP, and heads of other security agencies, the former Chairman of the Council of State, the Chief of Staff, the Chief Justice, the Speaker of Parliament, former President John Ajekun Kufuor and spouse, if possible, former President John Dramani Mahama and spouse, the Vice President of the Republic and the Second Lady, visiting heads of state, the President of the Republic and the First Lady, and then the clergy before the service begins. That should be about 9:10 a.m.
And that is when we're getting closer to seeing the casket of the former president the last time. Then we would now have to admit and accept that we have finished with the funeral ceremony and we have committed his mortal remains to the ground. Then everything now starts from there, and we can now see the late former president is gone to the Mecca.
And speaking of tomorrow's rites, we would like to entreat the general public as much as possible if they could watch the ceremony virtually rather than trooping to the Independence Square. We are all reminded that we are not in normal times, so we would like to entreat the general public to take this into consideration. The route that the prefect as the The brother of the former president is also paying his final respects to the late president, Mr. Ibrahim Mahama.
It's a fist bump time. COVID fist bump. Yeah, some of the bumps are done virtually. Yes, I saw the Honorable Abla Jifa Gomashi doing a virtual one. Yeah, so it's about the bump. Yeah.
The former president of the Republic of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, the fourth of the fourth Republican Constitution from 2013 to 2017.
He also qualifies in a strange way as a former vice president as well.
Yes.
Yes, two in one row, you know.
Two in one row.
Yeah.
As one individual that had really experienced
All the levels, right?
all the levels, has experienced all the levels.
I'm looking forward to tomorrow because looking at the program of activities coming tomorrow, there's going to be a riderless horse that will be part of the procession. President Rawlings was an avid horse rider. He loved the outdoors. And so there's going to be a horse that is going to be part of the procession without a rider.
Without a rider, and I think it's only our people who can do this one. The military, it's a military program, and so far as the man was an officer, and the military had planned it, and so therefore and they will tell you that you dare go wrong. So whoever is supposed to be in charge of this riderless horse would have to make sure that this horse behaves and he
obeys instructions, eh?
Yeah.
There will be a handler for it.
Definitely, yes, yeah.
And it's symbolic of his love for riding. And then it's also symbolic of the fact that I'll say it's a symbolic horse.
Yes.
That's why it's riderless.
Yes, because the rider is passed.
The rider has passed. So the riding boots will be turned to face backwards to depict or show that the rider is no more. Yes. So the riding helmets, the riding jackets, the riding crop, all the riding accoutrements will also be placed in the saddle as the horse travels along. So viewers, as we have mentioned now, when you see the riderless horse in the procession tomorrow, this is what it means.
So now we're seeing the next to come in would be the spouses of former presidents. Yes, spouses of former presidents. This is a chief of staff. This is a chief of staff. Yeah, so that's the chief of staff, Honorable Frema Osayofa. She is now she's next to pay her respects. Is after the chief of staff that now move into the spouses of.
for filing past the body.
After the Chief of Staff, then we should be expecting to see the Secretary to the President, Secretary to the President, and that would be Nana Asante Gidget.
And so this is still our coverage of the 4-day state funeral of His Excellency J.J. Rawlings, who is lying in state at the Accra International Conference Center. As I told you earlier on, there's another event at the Supreme Court, which is the hearing of the 2020 presidential election petition. Our men, Abduhai Mumen and Edward Nyako, are going to be your anchors on the ground, bringing you some perspectives from the various parties that are involved in that particular case. You want to watch that one. In between time, you can switch and watch this particular event as well. But we are live here in the studios, bringing you the 4-day state funeral event of His Excellency J.J. Rawlings. We've seen that you've been sending us messages on WhatsApp, on Facebook, and on Twitter. Quickly, my colleague Winifred will read some of those messages as we have received them. The hashtag is still RIP J.J. Winifred.
Yes, Morris, tributes continue to pour in. The whole nation is mourning a great man, but we are also celebrating the legacies of the same great man. So the messages continue to pour in. Walanyo in Akwetia says NDC's petition is just having one agenda to frustrate the EC. And so this is about the court hearing you spoke about, and we'll be going there. The NDC delay status, tell us something and paint a certain picture. They are still going on there. Hashtag RIPJJ. Indeed, good name is better than riches. A just soul has fallen. I still wonder why everything should be in Accra in view of the burial of JJ. He is from the Anglo land, moreover a king. His body must be buried in the Anglo land to motivate the land and serve as a tourist attraction for the Anglo. And this, you didn't send us your name. Would also want to know where you are reaching us from. And this is a comment from someone who didn't mention his name. We also have RIP Papa J. We also have, we have really lost a legend. I didn't come to meet him doing the great things, but from what I've heard, I know Ghana has really lost a great person. We have Farewell JJ also coming in through. Leviticus Powers, COVID is real, oh, please let us follow strictly all protocols to save lives. And then he also said Ghana must take COVID-19 precautionary protocols also serious. Good morning, sir. Please, the man in front of you now made my day. All those celebrating JJ now are all hypocrites. If they are related to the 3 Supreme Court judges, they were killed. This is also another one from Frempong. The Almighty God we serve is merciful God, and this thought Nanado will win. And all these are the people watching us are also sharing their thoughts about the court proceedings, and so we will be having most of them like that. It's going to be, yes.
And that event, as I said, is live only on Ghana television.
Sure.
And this one is going to be live on
flying at half-mast. And this is from Yao. This is what he also wants us to know. Hi, this is Arise. May his gentle soul rest in peace, Papa G. And so, Morris, the messages all are about him, as expected.
All right.
Papa J, Jenny, well, I remember your visit to Salaga in the 90s during the conflict era.
Right.
Papa, Jenny, well, Tornado from Salaga. So these are all the messages that we are having.
In your short,
Yeah.
E.T. Mensah,
Okay.
an experienced politician, and no doubt he worked with Rawlings.
He did.
I mean, he's been in the system for a very long time. At a point, he was a minister of youth and sports. He served in, several capacities, and he has also gone there to pay his last respect. E.T. Mensah, we saw a while ago in your shorts.
And these are the dignitaries that if you didn't know the man in person, you get to know him through the accounts of these people who really had something to do with him. So, Maurice, it's still rest in peace from people who are wishing the man we have all come to love well from here.
So, we still are the Accra International Conference Center. Those are live pictures. We want to hand you over at this point to the feed from the conference center. You're welcome back to the studios. We're still bringing you pictures from the Accra International Conference Center. As announced early on, there is another event at the Supreme Court. It is the 2020 presidential petition hearing at the Supreme Court, and our reporters on the ground tell us that the Supreme Court has gone on recess. That's because the petitioners, led by counsel Tony Letha, today were supposed to file their witnesses' statements. They couldn't do that today, and they are saying that there was a motion pending for a review of a ruling that the Supreme Court made on their request to ask the EC some 12 or 15 specific questions. The Supreme Court dismissed that request and made their ruling. The NDC requested for a review of that ruling. Later, after the court adjourned to today, the NDC filed another motion to stay proceedings until the Supreme Court has heard their case on a motion requesting for a review of that particular hearing. So, counsel Tony Letha was saying that because these two motions were pending, they didn't come to court today with their petitioner statement. Don't forget that the NDC has said that they have some 5 witnesses who would be their witnesses in this particular case, the 2020 presidential election petition hearing at the Supreme Court. And so as we speak, the court has gone recess. They would decide what will be the next way forward. When they return, we'll bring you pictures of that particular event. That is exclusive and live on Ghana Television. So at this point, we're going to get Ghana Television, GTV, join the feed from the Accra International Conference Center, where His Excellency J.J. Rawlings is lying in state. When the court gives a signal that they are ready to make their ruling on today's issues, then we'll go back to the Supreme Court, and then GTV will bring you from the Supreme Court. Our men on the ground, Abdul Hai Momen, and my senior colleague Edward Nyako, would be speaking to the parties involved in this particular matter and bring you up to speed with what's happening at the Supreme Court. You want to stay with us. So we'll go back to the Accra International Conference Center, where we see more dignitaries, personalities paying their last respects to His Excellency J.J. Rawlings. We see in your pictures not too long ago Do Ajaho, who was a former Speaker of Parliament, paying his last respect. So it's gotten to that point where former Speakers of Parliament would come to pay their last respect. The lineup that we have. Former Speakers of Parliament will come there to pay their last respect to the late J.J. Rawlings. Those are pictures coming to you from the Accra International Conference Center. As you can see, I mean, there's so much, security because of the personalities.
It should be expected.
I mean, that are coming there today.
It should be expected.
And also the safety protocols, COVID-19 safety protocols, adhered to strictly.
And it has been very strictly.
Very much so. Yes. Very much so. Yesterday when I was there, so when you get to the main entrance of the conference center, you do a security check, and then there's a booth where you are fumigated. I don't know whether that word is right. And then you climb up to the main frontage of the conference center. Lined up is, lots and lots of sanitizers. You can choose from to sanitize your hands. You walk in there quietly, and then you wave at the family, and then you do a turn, and then you bow, and then you come out.
You walk out.
Sure. And you are not allowed to take any pictures. Yes. So, those are pictures. I think that even today, the general public should be allowed. So we're seeing the numbers.
The numbers, yes.
Okay, so this is the NDC caucus in Parliament. I see some very
Hannah Tete there.
Sure, it should be the NDC caucus in Parliament. They are getting themselves ready to pay their last respect. That's the Speaker of Parliament,
Mr. Alban Bagbin.
Honorable Alban.
Now, because of the mask, you are not able to readily identify.
Sure. But he's with his glasses.
That should be him. Yes, that should be him.
You get to see who he is.
That should be him.
Alban Sumana Bagbin, the current Speaker of Parliament. He will pay his last respects to J.J. Rawlings. There we see heads of security agencies. We also see the second deputy speaker, Joe Wise, the second deputy speaker in your shots there. And then those are parliamentary staffers.
Some of the clerks?
Sure. I mean, those who work in Parliament, senior members of, the parliamentary workforce. So they're in your
the
shot.
minority leader.
Well, at this point, they call him the leader of the NDC group.
The leader of the NDC group.
The leader of the NDC group.
Mr. Haruna Idrisu.
In Parliament.
Yes.
Mr. Haruna Idrisu. An experienced politician.
It's just going to be confusing. Eh?
Sure. He is being Minister of Communications at a point. He's being majority leader at a point.
A very
He's being
fine
minority
politician.
Leader at a point. He comes across as someone who welcomes views, from both political divides. So much respect for him, even from the MPP side. He leads the.
That should be, Mr. Say, Chairman Sabunsu. He just walked past too.
Right.
A very solemn moment, Morris.
Sure. And I had the opportunity to file past yesterday.
You did?
I did, yes. I because I was
How
there.
was it like?
I mean, it was humbling that you had the opportunity. Because not everybody is going to have the opportunity.
It's true.
There are people who will be limited geographically, even though they would like to come and watch, they may not get opportunity. So for me, it was humbling that I get to see this man finally.
And for people who haven't still come to terms with the fact that he's gone,
sure.
You see him
Sure.
lying in state, and I mean, there's no two ways about it. You have no option.
Even at this point, some will still feel it's not true until maybe tomorrow when
he's finally lowered,
and then maybe when the casket is covered. And then you know that the man is beginning a journey to eternity.
A journey of no return, if you can say that.
Sure. All right, so there we have it. Politicians from both the NDC and the MPP, at the Accra International Conference Center.
And it is humbling how COVID-19 has been able to, change our very fabric of social life. Now we go to events such as this, which it was the norm for you to shake hands.
To even hug.
But now it has been reduced to a wave or a fist bump.
Sure. That's Honorable Doyo, Comfort Doyo Ganza. She's MP for Ada. You see in a shot, he's a new entrant in Parliament. Francis Sosu Xavier. He's MP for Madina. He unseated Honorable Sadiq. Honorable Sadiq of the NDC.
Boniface, yes.
Sadiq of the NPP.
Sure.
And he goes to Parliament for the first time. He's a human rights lawyer. He's been fighting the cases for vulnerable people,
the less privileged
in society, pro bono. And I guess he will continue to do that even now that he has become an MP there.
I remember that case he had with a man who had been caught
Who had been in prison.
in prison for so long, and
yeah.
he was
I think
able
it
to...
was in remand, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. And then fought that case for him, and the guy was released. Yeah. He's done several of those
issues.
Of those cases,
I see.
actually.
So yesterday, exactly 5 p.m., the doors were closed, or they were able to extend the time?
I think it was 5 p.m.
5 p.m.
Yeah, but I left before 5 p.m. anyway. But these are, this event is being ushered by the military, so and the national, the state protocol.
So there is strict compliance to time.
To time. So I'm thinking about 5 p.m. yesterday.
Youth groups were working on different directions that he was part of before June 4th. And after that, before 31st broke out. And like I said, it was a very interesting, down-to-earth person to work with.
But very interesting and down-to-earth person to work with.
Yeah.
Right. And what if I ask you, what do you remember about him? Your fond memories of him. Tell me one important thing that you remember about.
What I know about him is that he was down-to-earth person. When you dream about something in connection with the process, and you went there to you catch his attention, and where he thought that there were other people in the group that you should touch base with, network with, he will recommend and will follow through.
So with me, also joining me in the studio is the Right Honorable Duajaho, a former Speaker of Parliament. Honorable Duajaho, you're welcome. And we're all looking at someone that we thought, we were thinking at the point in time when his death was announced, people were surprised, and it got to a time that people were thinking that it is Rawlings never dies. But the story of Rawlings is dead came in. So what are you thinking about? Rawlings is gone. What are you thinking about?
Indeed, until I saw him lying in state, that was the position I took, that Rawlings never died. I couldn't even believe it. Indeed, I was lost for words. And if you recall, I've never granted an interview until I came out and I spoke to the media for the first time since the unfortunate incident of November 12, 2020. But he was larger than life.
Yes.
He walked the talk. When he spoke about probity and accountability, it wasn't just a mere slogan. He actually lived it until the day before death. You know, you remember During the PNDC days, where his fight against corruption, his stand for probity and accountability was high. He never departed from those virtues, those principles, until he passed on. I had the privilege, of getting closer to him, not when he was in office, but when he left office during the Kufuor administration. But from a distance, he continued to motivate me. I just told a story of when I was majority chief whip, and I went to do a program on those days. Is it Talking Point? I think we still have it.
You still have it, yes.
It's normally on over the weekend, Sundays. I went there to do a program to defend the government position on certain issues. I was shocked. The following day, Ambassador Victor Smith, who was then working in his office, brought a letter signed by the First Lady, the wife, Nana Konadu Rawlings, that she and her husband appreciate my contributions and that I should continue. That's the level of motivation. That's the level of encouragement. It is not this time that we have this politics of pull you down. When you are shining, then people will meet, plan, and try and draw you down. He will motivate you, encourage you, support you. He will stand by you when he's convinced that what you are doing is right. And that letter, that from the first family at the time, I valued it up to today. That is continuing to inspire me to reach where I have reached in politics. And don't forget, as a young lawyer, I was posted to Brong-Ahafo region, to the Attorney General's Department for my national service in the early 80s. And I was there one morning when a letter came from Accra, signed by the PNDC coordinator for revenue commissioners, tribunals and investigations, appointing me as assistant special public prosecutor in charge of Brong-Ahafo region. Apparently, a week before I did a case at the tribunal, and I think there were reports all over, clearly showed the way I defended the person that I young as I was at that time. And so the whole Council Office of Special Public Prosecutor originated from the man, Jerry John Rawlings, in his bid to prosecute, to serve as deterrent for economic sabotage, for people who continue to dish their hands into the scarce resources of this state for their personal gain. And I don't know the number of properties that the man had at the time of his death. When he was living in Accra, I happened to visit there once. We went for a funeral at Transition, the funeral of the late Ebotewia. And we followed him to know where he was staying. And he was staying in a rented place. Later on, I was told. He was staying in a rented place. Apart from his step place, that I know, very modest house. I don't know of any other. But, this should be the way forward.
Public should be the leader.
Yes. The public office should not be used to make money at the expense of the people. Clearly, I mean, if that path is not the correct path to go as a people and as a nation. And that is why he had no patience for people.
He considered us corrupt.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And many people did not agree so much with him.
That takes me to my next question. Honorable U.T. Mensah, you work with him, and you know that in this part of the world, there are people who don't have anything to show for politics. Before politics, they were nobody. They have not done any hard work before. And so when you're going into politics, they're going into politics to make wealth. And you have a leader you are not following, and the man is against this. How comfortable were you? Were you not afraid of your future? That the future is going to be bleak, a future without money, the future without resources? Were you not afraid of it?
We were not afraid of it. Well, we knew the man we were working with who was interested in details. Like I said, we started with him years back before 31st. June 4th even broke out. And 31st we had movements where we used to go around the country and replicate the movements, and also every weekend we had to go somewhere to go and educate the people, let them know where we were going to. And he, was quite an interesting person. All cabinet members then knew. Now once in a while he would drop his attention, gentlemen, you know where we're coming from, and you know our mantra, probity and accountability. You have to bear in mind that there will be a day of reckoning. So whatever you are doing, you have to be very careful. There were times which people even considered funny whenever you found the new people who had joined, as secretary. Wearing expensive watches and things would drew their attention, and they will remove it before stepping out to come to have the meeting. So we knew who he was, and he would not spare anybody, no matter how close you were with him, if you should cross the red line.
You know what you're going to feel. Right Honorable Dua Jaho, former Speaker of Parliament, you have a very fine experience working with former President Rawlings. Do you think at any point in time he felt and he believed that what he wanted to do, he's been able to at least do so?
Yes, he's not expressing openly. From discussions with him, what I was is that he did not want his legacy to be destroyed. Up to where he still believes that there's more to be done. He believes that there's more to be done, irrespective of what is achieved so far. But he still believes that there's a lot that we need to do as a country. Especially when he can't see injustice. He can't see people, suffering. He can't tolerate corruption. And he believes that one way to move this country forward is to fight corruption, is to walk the talk on probity and accountability. And anytime he see people departing from that path, he feels a sense of betrayal. He feels that, look, all these sacrifices that I did, putting my life at risk, why can't people see it in that light and continue in that spirit? And so, yes, he felt he's done a lot. He also felt that he sacrificed a lot. He felt that he has given his all.
You're welcome back. It's still our live coverage of the 4-day state funeral of His Excellency J.J. Rawlings. As I told you earlier on, there's also a Supreme Court hearing at the Supreme Court concerning the 2020 election petition. The court went on a short recess. We are told by our men on the ground that the court has returned, and so the rule on the motion that the NDC has filed. They have filed 2 motions to stay proceedings until the Supreme Court hears their case on a review of a ruling that was made by the Supreme Court sometime last week. They were unable to file their petitioner's statement today, even though the respondent, the first respondent and the second respondent did so. They have filed an opposition to the NDC's request for a review of that particular ruling that the Supreme Court made sometime last week. So the court has returned. GTV will pick that event live, and so you can continue watching the state funeral on GBC News whilst GTV brings you live pictures from the Supreme Court. This guy had a food over the shire.
People thought that we could not extend electricity to the northern part.
This trials in the High Court has a similar provisions as follows. Where
He expanded electricity. He expanded, educational. Don't forget about the educational reforms program. When they build secondary schools, establish secondary schools across the length and breadth, so that they can put education at the doorsteps of the people. The Sahel program of electrification. Mention them. Look, I have no apology to anybody to say that he's one of the greatest leaders, presidents this country had ever seen. And he did it with integrity. And I just granted an interview, and I like Otini, so let me repeat it again. I read a book. One senator called Alan Simpson of the U.S. was introducing President Ford at Harvard University. And the words that he used continue to guide me. And he said, if you have integrity, nothing else matters. If you don't have integrity, nothing else matters. John Rawlings had integrity, and nothing else matters.
Nothing else.
Notwithstanding how they may want to rewrite the history books, notwithstanding how people may want to disown him, betray him, abandon him, nothing else matters, either in life or in death.
You were very close to former President Rawlings before we promulgated the Constitution in 1993. What was his mood when we were moving from the PNDC into the NDC era? What was his mood? Was he comfortable moving into a democracy where you would have to go and ask permission for everything at all you want to do? What was his mood?
Let me just, add something to what my brother, the speaker, said. I read something from that man who was a professor in Johns Hopkins University about the state of African countries, and that he did a research on 11 African countries and concluded that all those countries were failed states, including Ghana. When we talk about failed state, that's what we're talking about, right? When virtually everything was not available, your station wasn't what it is today. It was in starters and was the only one. You couldn't even get simple things like Kinke, Gary, and other things to buy. You had to queue for everything. There were no materials for you to go and sew any suit that you wanted to. You had to go to the brewing well sellers and all that. But in 1979, early 1979, he reviewed and he said that, look, each and every one of those states will have political upheavals. There will be coups, counter-coups, and a lot of mess will break out. But in 1979, he came and revised what he had said, how the Rawlings reintroduced Ghana moving into legitimacy when it stepped in. So what my brother just said is something that people need to know. Ghana wasn't what it is today. Those were the days when I had the privilege of being the first Metropolitan Chief Executive for Accra for 10 years. And when we took over, I saw what Accra was. You look for a high-rise building and you could only refer to Job 600 in this state at the time. It was under President Rawlings' watch that you can talk about airport city. It didn't happen by accident, it was deliberate. It was deliberately fashioned out. When we moved in there, we had to clear farms and chop bars all the way to the belly of the airport. We had to do that. That was the time when you had only one double road in Accra. From, what they call the Belgium circle to the beach. All the other double roads came under the Economic Recovery Program. As you see it today, the markets that were built, we demolished Makola Market. And at the time that it was demolished because of the Kalabule. But when we went in there, we found out that Accra had a plan. And 20 other markets had to be built. And that the market in Makola had to be relocated to its present position. And we followed it. The city was swallowed by 758 huge mounds of refuse, bigger than this building that we're sitting. And we had to clear it. And the interesting thing was that he was personally involved. He would come to us because we were building the market, clearing the refuse without, the city having the equipment that they should have. What they did was that we had to clear the place, but then they networked with the German government for support. They had to link with the German government for support. And we cleared the mess. And you recall, people were in Accra knew, even cleaning the carpet was around. Public toilets, 129 toilets were all in messy situations. We had to do something about it. And while we were working for the creation of the first-class modern waste management department, all this happened under his watch. So what you see today, to cut a long story short, I brought a book, I've written a book about Accra, the state of Accra.
The state of Accra.
And what Accra is today. You credit President Rawlings with that. And he encouraged that. At that time, we motivated the workers in the city engineers department to build the market. You have a Gugulushi market, Accra Newtown was there, that revived it. 129 markets. And so the women, when our parties were voting for us happily because of what they had gained from the process. Accra is what it is today. And then we extended it. Accra City Extension Project then came on stream. We extended it to Secondary Takrady. I was had to go there and hold workshops for the people there to know how we did it. And the Oban will come. Those days where we went out there and closed 3 a.m. every day, paid the workers the same day, and in the night, he will come with video Ben to come and visit us, crack jokes to the workers, encourage the people. So people love, his style. People love his style. So when he moves you from here to here, it wasn't because I was babbling him, but because he was seeing what we're doing. And he involved the people in, even when budgets were going to be published. Whenever Kwesi sent what they had to send for the academicians to discuss it, and the politicians to discuss it, the old man wanted to know what the people feel out there. So So he'll call me, Chen, you have sat in this thing, you let me go, give your bill, and others go and talk to the market leaders. At that time, there were no leaders. I formed the associations based on the commodities that they were selling. And we will go and discuss with them about what was going to come out of the budget and what is the fallout to be. They should ask their questions. He needed their input. The input of the market was something which was taken seriously, added to whatever happened. So we can go on and on and on.
No. So that is it. Right Honorable Dua Jahu, what if you look at your style? You became a Speaker of Parliament, and we saw the strength and your capacity and your drive. What did you take from former President Rawlings? That is this one, I think I'll have to learn this and I have to use it.
When I became Speaker, you know how I was welcomed. An amount of 50,000 Ghana cedis was into my personal account. I knew, and I didn't know, and it was meant for rent. I knew I wasn't entitled because I was spoken over at the time. And the letter that was written for the money mentioned 275 MPs. And I knew I wasn't entitled. So my man was not there. I was coming out from my last election campaign. So I was going to take money and I wanted to find my balance from my bankers. I called them and they mentioned a certain amount, which I have in my account. I knew I couldn't have got that money in my account after an election. So I asked them to find something has been paid. And they told me that they have paid 50,000 into my account. I quickly signed a check and called the clerk and said, look, why? I wasn't entitled. Go and, this is the check. Go and pay in. Bring me my paying slip and give me a receipt. That is Jerry John. That is the thing that because if you ever prosecute people for those offenses, and young as I was and I was prosecuting people, it guides you. You know, you see people fall from grace to grass in those days. I mean, how do you think that you would allow that money to stay in your account? And another thing, I try to live a very modest lifestyle. Because I keep on telling my children that at the end of the day, it is not the properties that you own, the material things that you have, but the values, the virtues, the principles that you live for. Like the great prophets of old, like the great politicians. We don't remember them for what they own at the point of leaving this earth. We remember them for the values, the principles, what they fought for, what they believed in. And so there's no way, you know that when you are young and a lot of things have impact on you than when you are old. Yeah. Growing up and you see some of these things. December 31st, when December 31st was now, I was 24 years. And I started prosecuting around 20-something years, into early 30s. And you can't but see that, look, are you better than the people that you are prosecuting? And so it will have impact on you. It will have impact on you. And you see the sacrifice of a lot of people at that time around Jerry John Rawlings. Even when you even make your own money to put up your own house, you are even afraid. So a lot of people who work around you put up their buildings after we return to constitutional rule. I mean, look, you just working. My last office before I went to Parliament was at the State House here. We work, you can work from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. But the following, on Sakame from the Attorney General, but the following day you are in the office. You are highly motivated. You want to work. no interference, except that the only time that there's any interference is either to commend you or to draw attention to something that maybe you did not get right. And so I look, I think that nobody is perfect except maybe God. But you should try as much as possible to lead a life for that generation to come. And I think that his life,
This life
yes,
of the man lying
yes,
casket there.
yes.
And rolling.
I mean, it was not. You get to him. I mean, you get to him, and he wasn't interested in. He wasn't what I was, you know. Look, I when he lost the mother, there was a lady, a friend went to see him, and he met a lady there who was crying. No. After he died, and said who was going to buy his medication for him. Apparently, he had a list of people that every money that comes to him, he was paying either their school fees, people paying their medical bills, people in difficulties. He was. So any money that comes his way, he shared it.
He shared it with the people.
Yes. And at least after his death, I had an encounter with two of those people. So you might not be liked, or people might even think that you are a fool. But at the end of the day, it is worth emulating him.
Very good. So, Honorable Yiti Mensah, what message would you want to give the young of today, looking at the life of former President Rawlings, Lieutenant Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, at the point he was called Junior Jesus during your time, when you were the mayor of Accra.
Yeah.
The market queens were shouting, Junior Jesus, JJ, Junior Jesus, JJ. And we were saying that so Yiti Mensah Jama, you are a real organizer. You organized for him. What message would you give to young ones looking at your future and pointing them to?
Thank you very much. I have told you my children every now and then, and the young men around me, and what we're seeing today, that it pays. That when you're young, it pays to bid your time. It pays to be patient. You don't have to rush. We've read it around, we've seen it. If you rush, you will crash. And you will never be able to recover. You don't have to rush. For you to see somebody who has built a number of houses, I will be in this, they call us fools. Those of us who work around, Papa J, you will just allow him to bully you. Never bullied anybody. That whatever you are doing, there will be a day of reckoning. And when the day comes, what you will be able to use to defend yourself will be the life that you led. And what is happening today, the young ones are too much in a hurry. Project did something which was fantastic that we need to learn about. All the people that he chose to work with were senior people who have seen it all before. The Nathan Kwao, the Harry Sawyers, the Munufie, the Justice Anans, and those of us, Kwesibo Chwe, and others, those of us who used to be working on the campus that he poached, were all people who were working, and then he brought us to come and work. The generals that he poached from the barracks, the retired police officers, all the things that we did, we had all these people around us. Were people who have seen it all before. So, in leadership, you need to bring strong, that we don't need just strong men, but men who are strong here. And they were around us, And we're always, advising us. Mention them, the team that was there. So people sitting out there were attracted to the revolution and were attracted to the party. The party was forming all the time and it was so big. So that is my, if you wanted me to give you the advice I give to the young people, you don't have to rush in life. Rush in life at every segment, every corner of life. Wherever you find yourself, you will crash. And when you crash, you can never
difficult to recover. Right, Honorable Duaja, before you go, I would want you to advise the young of today. You have done your part. As a young man, you really stood and reflected the values: probity, accountability, integrity, social justice. You reflected them. What advice would you give to the young of today?
When I was in the university, I was the secretary of the KC Legon Hall. The then opposition leader, the late Victor Usu, came and gave a lecture. And in that lecture, he made a very important statement which had guided me up to today. He said that you must have political apprenticeship, or you must have apprenticeship in whatever you do. When you go through the mill, you'll be a better leader. If you use a shortcut to get to the top, you will not survive. You know, before becoming speaker, I won 6 consecutive elections. I continue to work because, I joined the leadership of the House when Jasana was the speaker, and I joined the leadership in 1997. And so you go through the mill, you work with the leaders, you work with the speakers, those speakers before you work with those leaders that you met, you work with the presidents that you met, you learn from everybody. You see the mistakes in life, you see the successes of life, you see your own mistake. That you make along the way, you try to correct them, never to repeat them. When you emerge, you don't make mistakes. You don't make mistakes. Yes. You don't make mistakes. In fact, it will be difficult for you. So the young to the young, I said that look, everybody should take his time. We need the youth in our developmental effort as a country. But if it helps if you take your time and you go to the mill, you will be successful. You have that apprenticeship. In wherever you find yourself, not necessarily in politics, in public service, in the military, in whatever. When you take your time and go through the ranks, go through the mill, you get that experience. That will continue to guide you along the way.
Learn at the feet of the masters.
You learn at the feet of the masters.
You learn at the feet of the masters.
Thank you very much, Honorable Yiti Mensah, and Right Honorable former Speaker of Parliament, Joe Ajahu.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you in the studio.
It was my pleasure too.
I've put a book together. It's in print when we launched it. From the state of Ghana from 81 to 91.
That was we'll be glad to be part of that.
Okay.
Read the book as well.
Yeah, it'll be nice.
Thank you. So we're still at the we're still at the Accra International Conference Center, where we are observing the final funeral rites. The 3 of the burial of the former president of the Republic of Ghana, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. We just finished talking to Honorable Yiti Mensah, a long-time commandant. He stayed with Rawlings, worked for Rawlings. At a point, he was saying he was his Baba, and he confirmed. He said not only because he was his Baba that he stayed longer with him, but because of trust and confidence he had in him. And then the Right Honorable Doa Jahu also coming through the studio. We're still observing the final funeral rites. Know that today is day 3
Tomorrow, Wednesday, the 27th day of January, the year of our Lord, 2021, the mortal remains of former President Jerry John Rawlings will be laid to rest at the military cemetery here in Accra. Senators, let me quickly interrupt you and announce to viewers that we are now getting to where Chief Justice, the justices of the Supreme Court are ready to file past the mortal remains of the former President of the Republic of Ghana, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. Yes, Honorable.
We have lost a great asset. We have lost something that it is going to be very difficult to feel. Honestly, when you ask me, because someone will say, but you are coming from the position. No. When I was a student in a PRESEC, the Democratic Youth League of Ghana, in the early days of the revolution, some of us have someone's a time we go past, what do you call it, this conference center around the Art Center. Yes, to go and listen to him. It is something that we need. The state must do something in his honor. But let me say this, because of him, it is wrong for always praise people when they are old. That has been possible. Whilst the person is alive, that is where we must eulogize him. It is only when he's old. He doesn't hear. He doesn't see. Sometimes when some of his own enemies people are lambasted, I defend him. I said, no, you can do that. I recall one time when my own brother, Nilante, was after him. I defended Rawlings right in the studio. Because he's a statesman.
He's a statesman. Honorable MP for BELGIUM, Kofi Adams, former aide to former President Jerry John Rawlings. You know him. You felt him. It was very close to you. How did you feel when you heard of his passing out?
My brother, it was a devastating news. And I quickly moved to denial because like you introduced, former President Rawlings for me was, I perceived him to be larger than life. And so death was not something I envisaged or anticipated would happen come the time it happened. So I got shocked, but quickly moved into a state of denial that it's not true. He has gone to sleep. He would wake up. But as days roll, the usual conversation, the discussions we were supposed to have, for which I have spoken to him Tuesday before the Thursday he was sent to the hospital, was no more happening. So, is it true? Is it true? Until this morning, when I arrived here and stood there for some time, said things in my mind, no response from him. The usual way he would respond immediately I get to him, there was no response. So now, truly, it dawned on me that my boss is no more. He's truly come to his maker.
Now let us quickly now look at the values that he stood for. Probity, accountability, integrity, social justice. These are the things. Are you sure that these quality tenants will live with us, and do we respect them? Or he is dead, so he has died with it?
I think his death and the love that has poured out should rather, in a way, excite us to keep to these values. I likened this situation to what happened as we read our Bible and we are told stories about. Even when Christ was alive, his teachings, many of us didn't accept it. If I say many of us, I mean those of us who were alive. We didn't accept it. It was after his crucifixion and resurrection.
Let me rudely interrupt you. That is Honorable Joshua Alabi, former Greater Accra Regional Minister during Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings' time.
Actually, he was Greater Accra Minister and Northern Regional Minister
yes.
at the point.
Yeah, and now is a very solid person in the party that former President Jerry John Rawlings formed.
at the NDC.
So, Kofi.
So it should excite us to want to keep up those values. The truth is that these are foundational values of the development of every country. You can't do without social justice. If you have to develop, there should be social justice. Issues of probity in every sphere of life, not only political or financial accountability. We must be accountable in everything that we do, even in media, in our work as journalists, in our work as, if I'll call it, men of God. Somebody say we shouldn't call them men of God because we are all men of God. Even our religious work, even in our homes, how we relate with our spouses, how we relate with our children, how our children relate with us, our stewards and the rest. There should be probity, there should be accountability, there should be justice in that relationship. Look, if we do that, the political tension and the rest, all those things will become a thing of the past. We will compete for power because we have to compete for it. But the tension, the fact that if I see Honorable Titus Glover, because he's in the opposing side, we must be enemies. This one must never even advise another person. But if we believe in social justice, if we believe in equity and accountability, even if it is Titus that is president and not my party, I'll be willing to help him because his success will be the success of the country for the period he has the mandate. And so I think that it's an opportunity. President Rawlings' life, all through the ups and the downs and how he exited, should encourage us to pick up those values and see how we can raise them to every sphere of our life and carry
it on. Titus Glover.
Yes.
We are now looking at the end of a man that really dominated the political scene of this country for 19 years, 11 years plus 8 years. And then he walked off after 8 years, handed over, and then the democracy is gone. And we've seen, we used to describe Ghana's political history as checkered. But for the past 30 years, we are seeing a stable democracy, Fourth Republican Constitution, Fourth Republic, very stable. How would we want to see this beautiful country of ours after the passing of Flight Lieutenant Rawlings?
Thank you very much. The 31st December revolution, we were told, was the last of our revolution. So for the 11 years that he walked us through that transition, before he ushered us into democratic rule, he demonstrated his commitment that this is the path the wealth and the people of this country want us to go. Therefore, he gave his all to make sure we go by these tenets of this constitution. Let me say it now, and let me repeat myself. The late former president was an institution. He was an institution. Therefore, we need to guide this democracy in such a way that we will not go to the past. From 1982 up to year 2001, he lived to see a build. He made sure that whatever it takes for us to make sure we will remain in constitution, we should not allow it to go. As for give and take as political opponents, we are not enemies. We all have divergent views. We all want to come to Accra from Tema. Kofi can decide to go to the waterway. I can go to the coast. But we are right here in Accra. It is only management typology, the style, that will change. So as long as we want to practice multi-party, that is what we need to do. What we are doing that will destroy the beauty of this country, we should be guided about it. To make sure we hold what our predecessors, our forebears, including the former president and us, we should hold it. I would have loved that it's a world school that was set up in his honor. A whole institution that was set up in his honor. When he was alive, and they wanted to name the UDS after him, he said, no, this is a man who doesn't want materialism. They pleaded with him, he said, no, but I think now is the hour to remind generations to come that this was a man, when he had a donation of 50,000 cedis, he could have pocketed it. He could have gone to do some business with it. He could have used to pay the fees of his ward, his children, and all that. He said, no, he wanted to build the human capital of the young ones in this country. And this is what he did. So such a person, we need to celebrate him. So for us, what I can say is that we have come to live with democracy. And that is why he has put on us. We must all, as Ghanaians, as political parties, come together to make sure we jealously guide this democracy that he has bequeathed to us.
Honorable Kofi Adams, I know that the values that he stood for, it's all for us to now experience. And whatever foundations he's laid, it's for all of us now to guide it. But then you look at it, he was a man of the people. The people loved him.
That is the difference he beats in the opposition.
The people loved him. And had it not been COVID, by this time this place would have been besieged. There would have been stampeding here. But because of COVID, this is what we say. So does it tell? I want to find out from you. You should know that it is not what we want, but it can come. And when it comes, this is it. How should we direct our youth? The thieving people that love this man and love the parties we represent. Both parties, the NPP and the NDC. How do we talk to our teaming supporters to let them understand that it is politics we're doing and not distraction? And they, as supporters as well, should know that if their leaders are doing politics and it is not distraction, how do we speak to them to let them understand that this is the way forward for our Northern?
We all have a role to play, and you are speaking to me as a practicing politician and a partisan one for that matter. But like you asked and said, we have a responsibility to make sure that our country develop out of fair, just atmosphere based on very clear values and principles that we have been talking about. One thing President Rawlings kept telling me, he said, look, when you are convinced about something, push it as hard as you can. Don't be insulting, don't be insolent, but push it as far as you can, because that is what God has put in you. That every human being has something that God puts in him or her for the life he has given you. There's something he puts in you every day when you wake up. You feel convinced about it. Push it. You will get others who may buy into it, because God doesn't give you something and won't get people to come and buy. So, if it is true that it is God himself that is pushing, you will bring you people that will buy into it, and then you will be able to push it through. But one thing that must always inform your actions. Your actions should be based on the cardinal truth. That at the time you are acting, they will never know that this is not true. No, he doesn't think that should inform our ways of doing. If we have to take on honorable titles, it should be based on truth. And that is how easy it was working for him and being his spokesperson for such a long time. Because all he wants is that just speak the truth. Look, if you saw him, if it was your kegari he was eating, you don't need to be a politician and say he ate some fried rice and fish and with this and that. If it is your kegari without any fish and anything, say as it is. Just say it. Even if it makes him unhappy, he knows that you have spoken the truth. That was how easy it was working for him. He cared about everybody. Look, if he ever hears, like, you are working with him, and then he hears that you have disrespected somebody, not even within the office, that is the end of you. You will have, it will take you a long time. He have to find a way. If you get you back to go and apologize to that person, you have to do. Or if he has to get somebody for you to go with that person to go and apologize before because otherwise he feels like it is a disrespect to him that you, close to me, can do this to somebody. It means I am irresponsible. And that is why sometimes when people hear him take on some person, then they ask, but now, oh no, why am I? His belief is that people cannot be working with you and for you and be behaving that way, and you think that you are not aware, you cannot do anything about it. It may be true that appointees or political decisions may be on their own, but you have appointed it. So if they are going in a certain way that everybody is complaining, so are you not hearing?
Into the political terrain, became a politician, and he was one beautiful politician. You are a beautiful politician when the people are with you, and he pulls back. He was able to. He has a charisma, and he has the ability to hold people and get people working. Now has gone as a politician. What would you say that you would want to take from him and run what?
And there's a saying that it's said about the late Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, that he never dies. Because of the kind of things that Dr. Nkrumah came to do for this country. I want to borrow those words. He said that Jerry Rawlings never dies.
Never dies.
He's still in our hearts. The former president is still in our hearts. Whatever we are doing, we should remind ourselves there was once a time a leader of this country who demonstrated his life of humanity. He stood for the truth. He stood for transparency. He stood for total justice. And he also stood for accountability. Sometimes it is not the words that we just say, but the practicability of these words, how we put it into action, that will determine the words that he has given us. We shouldn't allow these words to just go just like that. I was sitting when you asked the same similar question to my former speaker and my senior uncle, Honorable Yiti. What do we think the youth are going to learn from the former president? It's about patience and humility. The tendency to learn, to see yourself when you're given an opportunity to open an institution. They should take Kofi and the family. They should take it up. His office should take it up and continue. They shouldn't leave the office like that. They must continue and carry out good works. And we believe that some of us, when we are called upon, we are ever ready to serve in every capacity that they invite us, because Rawlings never dies. He was an asset. He was an institution that God bless him. He may have his shortcomings. But as a human, we are all fallen. Once among the mistakes. But so long as there's genuineness in that mistake, he gives his all. Let us fairness to all the negatives that is carried about him. But for me, with my few years that I've been with Jerry Rawlings, we have raised an asset in this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kofi Adams, MP for BELGIUM and former MP for Tema East.
And Deputy Minister of Transport.
And Deputy Minister of Transport. Titles, new titles. Titles Glover. You always want it to be the same. It's wonderful having the two of you. That's right. The final funeral rites of the former President of the Republic of Ghana, the first of the Fourth Republic, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. The day started with the filing past of the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and the wife, Rebecca Akufo-Addo. Then we saw the filing past of the Vice President, Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia, and the wife Samira Bawumia. Then we saw former President John Ajikum Kufuor, former President John Dramani Mahama and wife Lordina Mahama. And then we saw the Chief of Staff file passed. And after the Chief of Staff, we have seen justices of the Supreme Court also have taken their turn to pay their last respect to the former President of the Republic. Joshua Alabi. We've also seen former speakers of parliament. We saw the former speaker, Right Honorable Joe Ajaku, current speaker, Alban Sumani Bagwe, and members of parliament coming to file past. Saw the former Agric Minister and now still named Agric Minister designate Dr. Asaya Kutu, and then we've also seen Matthew Poku Prempen, the former Education Minister and now Energy Minister designate, also filing past at the Accra International Conference Center. We have Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. Still at Accra International Conference Center, where we're observing the funeral of former President, Flight Lieutenant John Rawlings, born in 1947, died 2020 at age 73. Captain Akaku, it's been